أَلَمْ يَأْتِكُمْ نَبَأُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ قَبْلُ فَذَاقُوا وَبَالَ أَمْرِهِمْ وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ.
Has the news of the unbelievers of the past not reached you? They disbelieved, and then tasted its evil consequence. A grievous chastisement awaits them.
10. That is, the evil that they tasted in the world in consequence of their misdeeds was neither the real punishment of their crimes nor the full punishment. The real and full punishment they have yet to suffer in the hereafter. However, the people can learn a lesson from the torment that visited them. They can see how the nations which adopted an attitude of unbelief against their Lord went in degenerating and consequently met with an evil and disgraceful end. For further explanation, see E.Ns 5:6 of Surah Al-Araf, Yen 105 of Surah Hud.
ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُ كَانَتْ تَأْتِيهِمْ رُسُلُهُم بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ فقالوا أبشر يهدوننا فكفروا وتولوا واستغنى الله والله غني حميد.
This was because their messengers would come to them with clear signs, but they would say, "Shall mortals like ourselves guide us to the right way?" They rejected the truth and turned away. Thereupon Allah became unconcerned with them, for Allah is self-sufficient, innately praiseworthy.
11. The word bayyinat as used in the original has a vast meaning. Bayin, singular of bayyinat, in Arabic is something which is very clear and manifest. Saying about the prophets that they came with bayyinat gives the meaning that firstly, they brought such manifest signs as bore clear testimony to their having been appointed by Allah. Secondly, they presented whatever they presented with rational and clear arguments. Thirdly, there was no ambiguity in their teaching. They clearly explained what was the truth and what was falsehood, what was lawful and what was unlawful, what path man should follow, and what he should avoid. 12. This was then the foremost and basic cause of their degeneration and ruin. Mankind could not have known the right course of action in the world unless their Creator gave them the correct knowledge, and there could be no practical means of bestowing such knowledge by the Creator unless He blessed some of the human beings with the knowledge and entrusted them with the duty to convey it to other human beings. For this purpose, He sent the prophets with the manifest signs bayinat, so that there was no reasonable ground for the people to doubt their being on the truth. But the people refused to believe that a human being could be a messenger of God. Then obviously there could be no other way for them to receive guidance. For further explanation, see Yen 11 of Surah Yasin. In this connection, however, a strange manifestation of the ignorance and folly of human beings is seen. They have in fact never shown any hesitation in accepting the guidance of men, so much so that they have carried out gods of wood and stone according to their guidance. They have made human beings themselves God, the incarnation of God, even Son of God. And they have adopted such strange viewpoints by following the guidance of their misleaders blindly, which ruined human civilization and morals altogether. But when the messengers of God came to them with the truth, and they presented the pure truth before them without any selfish motive, they said, "Shall mere human beings show us guidance?" This amounted to saying that if a human being misled them, they would follow his guidance willingly, but if he showed the right path to them, his guidance was not acceptable. 13. That is, when they treated the guidance sent down by Allah with indifference, then Allah also became indifferent to them, and did not care what pit they fell in. Allah did not stand in need of their acknowledging Him as God in order to sustain and support His Godhead. Nor was He in need of their worship, nor of their praise and adoration. He, in fact, willed to show them the right path only for their own good and well-being. But when they turned away from it, Allah also became heedless of them. Then, either He gave them guidance, nor remained responsible for their protection, nor saved them from being afflicted with calamities, nor prevented them from bringing about their own ruin, for they themselves were not keen for His guidance and help.
زعم الذين كفروا أن لن يبعثوا قل بلى وربي لتبعثن ثم لتنبؤن بما عملتم وذلك على الله يسير.
The unbelievers have vehemently contended that they shall not be raised to life. Say to them, yes, by my Lord, you shall surely be raised to life, and you shall certainly be fully informed of all that you did. That is easy enough for Allah.
14. That is, this was the second basic error in which the deniers of the truth have been involved in every age, and which has ultimately brought about their ruin. Although no denier of the hereafter ever had any means of knowing, nor has he today, nor will he have in the future, that there is no life after death, but these ignorant people have always asserted the same thing, whereas there neither exists any intellectual basis for denying the hereafter with absolute certainty nor any scientific basis for it. 15. This is the third place where Allah Almighty has instructed His Prophet to tell the people by swearing an oath by his Lord that such a thing shall certainly happen. First, in Surah Yunus it was said, they ask, is what you say really true? Tell them, yes, by my Lord, it is absolutely true, and you have no power to avert it. Verse 53. Then, in Surah Saba it was said, the disbelievers say, how is it that resurrection is not overtaking us? Say, by my Lord, it will surely overtake you. Verse 3. Here, the question arises, what difference does it make for a disbeliever in the hereafter whether you give him the news of its coming by swearing an oath, or without swearing an oath? When he does not believe in it at all, will he believe in it only because you are asserting this on oath? The answer is, in the first place, the addressees of the Prophet, peace be upon him, were the people who knew from their personal knowledge and experience that he had never uttered a lie in his life. Therefore, even if they might have forged the most shameless slander against him with their tongue, yet in their hearts they could never conceive that a truthful man like him could say a thing on oath by Allah of which he himself was not convinced by knowledge and experience. Secondly, the Prophet, peace be upon him, did not only present the doctrine of the hereafter but also gave highly rational arguments for it. What distinguishes a prophet from others is that the arguments, however strong and cogent, that others may give for the hereafter, can at the most make the listener admit that the occurrence of the hereafter is more reasonable and probable than its absence. On the contrary, a prophet stands at a notch higher level than a philosopher. His real position is not that he has arrived at the conclusion of the necessity of the hereafter by the exercise of reason. But his real position is that he has the knowledge that the hereafter shall occur and says with conviction that it shall surely occur. Therefore, only a prophet can swear an oath to declare this, but not a philosopher. Then, faith in the hereafter can be generated only by a prophet's statement. The reasoning of a philosopher does not have the power to induce even himself to adopt it as his religious creed on the basis of his own argument, not to speak of another person. If the philosopher is really correct, he cannot go beyond, should be or ought to be. Only a prophet can assert with conviction that a thing is and certainly is. 16. This is the purpose for which the children of Adam will be resurrected. This also contains the answer to the question, what is the special need for it? If one keeps in view what has been discussed concerning verse 1, for above, one can easily understand that in this universe, which has been created with the truth, it would be highly unreasonable to imagine about man who has been given freedom to choose either belief or unbelief, who has been granted authority to appropriate many of the things in this universe, and who after choosing the way of belief or unbelief has accomplished much good, or done evil on his own responsibility by making the right or the wrong use of his authority during his life. That when he has done all this, the good done by the virtuous, and the evil committed by the criminal, one should neither bear any fruit, nor should there be any time when his deeds and actions should be subjected to security. The person who asserts such an irrational thing inevitably commits one of the two absurdities. Either he thinks that although this universe is based on wisdom, yet a creature like man, who has been endowed with authority, has been created and left irresponsible here, or he thinks that this universe is a random creation devoid of the wisdom of a wise creator. In the first place, he makes a contradictory statement, for the existence of an irresponsible creature, endowed with authority, in a universe based on wisdom, is clearly against justice and wisdom. In the second case, he cannot give any rational being like man should come into being in a haphazardly created, foolish universe, and how he conceived the idea of justice. Only a stubborn person could uphold the belief that folly could generate wisdom and injustice could generate justice, or the one who has become a mental patient because of his obsession for hair-splitting. 17. This is the second argument for the hereafter. The first argument was for its necessity, and this second is for its possibility. Obviously, when God could create such a grand and wonderful system of the universe without any difficulty, and when he could create human beings in the world in the first instance, it cannot be difficult for him to resurrect the same human beings and summon them before himself for the purpose of accountability.
فآمنوا بالله ورسوله والنور الذي أنزلنا والله بما تعملون خبير.
So believe in Allah and in His Messenger and in the light that we have sent down. Allah is fully aware of what you do. And
18. That is, when this is the truth and the whole human history testifies that the real cause of the destruction of the nations has been their disbelieving the messengers and their denial of the hereafter, then they should not insist on meeting the same doom by following their example, but should believe in the guidance presented by Allah and His Messenger, and the Quran. Here, as the context itself shows, by the light that we have sent down, means the Quran. Just as light itself is clearly seen and reveals everything that was hidden in darkness around it, so is the Quran a light whose being based on the truth is self-evident. In its light man can solve and understand every problem that he cannot solve and understand exclusively by means of his own knowledge and intellect. Anyone who has the light can clearly see the straight path of truth out of the countless, crooked paths of thought and action, and can follow the straight path throughout life in such a way that at every step he can know where the crooked bypaths are misleading and where the pitfalls of destruction are situated on the way, and what is the path of safety and security among them.
يوم يجمعكم ليوم الجمع ذلك يوم التغابن ومن يؤمن بالله ويعمل صالحا يكفر عنه سيئاته ويدخله جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها أبدا ذلك الفوز العظيم.
you shall come to know that when He will assemble you on the day of gathering, that shall be the day to determine mutual gains and losses. Whoever believes in Allah and acts righteously, Allah will have his evil deeds expunged and will admit him to gardens beneath which rivers flow. Therein they shall abide forever. That is the supreme triumph.
19. The day of gathering, the resurrection, when all human beings born in the world from the beginning of creation till the last day will be gathered together simultaneously. This theme has been fully explained in the Quran at several places, e.g. in Surah Hud it has been said, that will be the day when all the people shall gather together, and will witness everything that will happen there. Verse 103. And in Surah Al-Waqiyah, say to them, surely, the former and the latter, all shall be gathered together one day, the hour of which has already been appointed. Verse 50. 20. The word Yawm At-Tagabun as used in the original is too vast in meaning to be explained in a word, or even a sentence, of any other language. Of all the names of the resurrection that occur in the Quran, this name probably is the most meaningful. Therefore, an explanation is necessary to understand its meaning. Tagabun is from Gabn, which can be pronounced both as Gabn and as Gabon. Gabn is mostly used concerning commercial and business transactions and Gabon concerning opinion. Lexically, it has other meanings also, e.g. heedlessness, forgetfulness, a person's being deprived of his share, a man's harming another inadvertently in business or mutual dealing, etc. The derivative Tagabun implies the occurrence of Gabn between two or more persons. Thus, At-Tagabun alqam means some people's treating others fraudulently, or a person's harming another person and the others being harmed and damaged by him, or one's taking away the share of another, and the others being deprived of his share, or a person's incurring loss in business and another's gaining a profit, or some people's proving heedless or weak-minded in comparison to others. Now consider that in this verse it has been said about the resurrection, that will be a day of Tagabun. Mutual loss and gain, among the people. These words automatically give the meaning that in the world Tagabun is a common thing, but this Tagabun is superficial and deceptive, not the real and factual Tagabun. The real Tagabun will take place on the day of resurrection. There it will become manifest as to who actually incurred the loss and who actually earned the profits, who actually was deceived and who proved to be prudent and sensible, who actually had invested all his life capital in a wrong bargain and become bankrupt, and who had invested all his energies and abilities, wealth and time, in a good bargain, and earned all the benefits and gains, which the former also could have earned had he not been deceived in understanding the truth about the world. The commentators, while explaining the meaning of Yom At-Tagabun, have given several meanings of it, which are all correct, and throw light on different aspects of its meaning. Some commentators have explained that on that day the dwellers of paradise will take away that share of the dwellers of hell which they would have had in paradise had they done good deeds in the world as did the dwellers of paradise, and the dwellers of hell will take away that share of the people of paradise which they would have had in hell had they done evil deeds as the world. This is supported by a hadith, which Bukhari has related in Kitab Ar-Rikak, on the authority of Abu Hurairah, saying that the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Whoever goes to paradise will be shown the place which he would have had in hell had he done evil deeds in the world so that he may give more and more thanks to God. And whoever goes to hell will be shown the place which he would have had in paradise had he done good deeds in the world so that he may feel more and more remorseful." Some other commentators say that on that day, the wronged one will take away so many of the good deeds done by the wrongdoer, as may be a suitable compensation for the wrongs suffered, or the wrongdoer will be equal in weight with his usurped rights. For on the day of resurrection man will not possess any wealth which he may give to make up for the wrong done. There the only commodity worth exchange will be one's conduct. Therefore, whoever had wronged another in the world, will have to make up for the wrong done by surrendering some of his own good deeds in his favor, or by taking some of his sins on himself and suffering the punishment for them. This theme also has been reported from the Prophet, peace be upon him, in a hadith. In Bukhari, Kitab Ar-Rikak, a tradition has been related from Abu Hurairah, saying that the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Whoever bears a burden of a wrong done to his brother, should compensate him for it here, for in the hereafter no one will have any wealth or money for compensation. There some of his good deeds will be taken from him and given away to the wrong person, or if he did not have enough good deeds, some of the sins of the wrong person will be transferred to him." Likewise, in Musnad Ahmad there is a tradition from Jabir bin Abdullah bin Unais saying that the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "No dweller of paradise will enter paradise, and no dweller of hell will enter hell until he will have compensated the other person for the wrong done to him, so much so that one will have to compensate even for a slap given to another person." We asked, how will this compensation be made when on resurrection we shall be naked and penniless? The Prophet, peace be upon him, replied, "Compensation will be made by means of the good deeds and the evil deeds." In Muslim and Musnad Ahmad there is a tradition from Abu Hurairah, saying that the Prophet, peace be upon him, once asked the people sitting in his assembly, "Do you know who is poor?" The people replied, "He who has nothing to possess." The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "In my ummah the poor is he who appeared before his God on the day of resurrection with his acts of the prayer and the fast and the payment of the zakat, while he had abused someone, usurped the property of another, and shed blood or hit still another. Then his good deeds were taken away and given over to each of the wronged, and when nothing was left of his good deeds to make compensation, some of the sins of each wronged one were transferred to him, and he was eased into hell." In another hadith which Muslim and Abu Dawud have related on the authority of Buraida, the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "If in the absence from home of a soldier for the cause of Allah, a person treats his wife and the people of his house treacherously, the person would be made to stand before the soldier on the day of resurrection, and the latter would be asked to take away whatever he liked from his good deeds. Saying this, the Prophet, peace be upon him, turned to us and said, "Then what do you say?" That is, what do you think he would leave with him? Some other commentators say that the word Tagabun is mostly used concerning commerce and business, and in the Quran at several places the attitude that the believer and the unbeliever adopt in their worldly lives has been compared to trade and commerce. If the believer giving up disobedience adopts obedience, and invests his life and wealth and effort for the cause of God, he is giving up a bad bargain and investing his capital in a business which will fetch him much gain and profit in the end. On the contrary, if an unbeliever abandons the way of obedience and invests his entire capital in the way of disobedience to God, he in fact is a trader who has purchased deviation for guidance, and will incur loss in the end. The gain and the loss of both will become manifest on the day of resurrection. It may well so happen in the world that the believer appears to be the loser, and the disbeliever the gainer. But in the hereafter they will see who actually had made the right bargain and who the wrong bargain. This theme has occurred at many places in the Quran, e.g. in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayats 16,175, 207, Surah Al-Imran, ayats 77, 177, Surah An-Nisa, ayat 74, Surah At-Tawbah, ayat 111, Surah An-Nah, ayat Al-95, Surah Fatir, ayat 29, Surah As-Saf, ayat 10. Yet another form of Tagabun is that in the world the people go on cooperating with one another in unbelief and sin, injustice and wickedness, with full peace of mind, with the confidence that they are enjoying fully mutual love and friendship. The mutual intrigues and comradeship of the members of wicked families, immoral guides and their followers, gangs of thieves and robbers, alliances of corrupt and unjust officers and officials, groups of dishonest traders, industrialists and landowners, groups established to spread deviation, error and mischief, and nations and governments which support and uphold injustice and wickedness in the world, is based on the same confidence. The individuals belonging to each of these groups harbor the impression that they are good companions of one another, and their mutual cooperation is proving very successful. But when these people reach the hereafter, they will suddenly wake up to the realization that they had been grievously mistaken and deceived. Each one of them would feel that the one whom he considered his best father, brother, wife, husband, child, friend, companion, leader, guide, disciple or supporter and helper, had been, in fact, his worst enemy. Every kind of relationship and friendship and bond of love and reverence will change into enmity. They will all abuse and curse each other, and each one will desire that maximum responsibility of his crimes be laid on the other, and will strive to get him severely punished. This theme also has occurred at many places in the Quran, e.g. in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayat 167, Surah Al-Araf, ayats 37 to 39, Surah Ibrahim, ayats 21 to 22, Surah Al-Mu'minun, ayat 101, Surah Al-Ankabut, ayats 12, 13, 25, Surah Luqman, ayat 33, Surah Al-Azab, ayats 67, 68, Surah Saba, ayats 31 to 33, Surah Fatir, ayats 18, Surah As-Safat, ayats 27 to 31, Surah Su'ad, ayats 59 to 61, Surah Hamim As-Sajdah, ayat 29, Surah Az-Zukhruf, ayat 67, Surah Ad-Dukhan, ayat 41, Surah Al-Marij, ayats 10 to 14, Surah Abasa, ayats 34 to 36. 21. Believing in Allah does not merely imply believing that Allah exists, but believing in Him in the way Allah Himself has taught through His Messenger and His Book. This belief by itself includes belief in apostleship and belief in the Book. Likewise, a good act also does not imply every such act as man may himself have adopted considering it a good act, or following a man-made criterion of morality, but it implies the righteous act that is in accordance with the law sent down by God. Therefore no one should have the misunderstanding that believing in Allah and doing good deeds, without the medium of the Messenger and the Book, will lead to the results being mentioned below. Whoever studies the Quran carefully cannot remain unaware that according to it no such belief is genuine belief in Allah and no such act is righteous at all.